So I'm making dinner and I thought I would show you guys what I'm making. I forgot to film the beginning of this because I wasn't gonna film this today, but then I was like, you know, maybe I should show you guys how I make some authentic Mexican. I am making taco de papas, which is basically like Mexican fried tacos, but with potato in them, and they're so good. I have 2 avocados that are really ripe and soft and perfect, and then I have a little bit of garlic powder seasoning, and then I have a crushed onion that I am dicing up right now, and I'm already boiling some potatoes. Here are the potatoes boiling. I've also added some lime juice in here, and now I'm adding the onion in. These are gonna be made with white corn tortillas. Love guacamole, and then we're also gonna do queso fresco, and we are gonna do some Greek yogurt, which is our sour cream alternative. All right, once the potatoes are done boiling and they're strained, they are fork tender, so basically you want them to just basically break apart with the fork. We're gonna add some salt, some garlic powder, and we're not making mashed potatoes. We're making like a chunky, almost like a paste kind of. And then we are adding cheese in ours. I'm just using some shredded cheese, and then it'll melt right into these hot potatoes. Just like this, a rough mash. It should just be chunky, clumpy, cheesy, some seasoning in there. No cream. We're not adding cream. We're not adding butter, milk, anything like that, because we're not making mashed potatoes. And we're not adding anything too strong because you really want the potato flavor to be the authentic. This is just the authentic way that I've seen it be done. All right, I'm going to show you guys how to wrap these. So you got to get these piping hot. I've microwaved these. They are very, very, very hot, almost to the point where they burn your fingers. If you don't get them really, really hot, whenever you go to bend them in half, you will break the seam, and then it'll fall apart and it won't fry up well. So you got to get them really hot. Then we are going to add some potato inside. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. You want it to smash pretty flat. And then you fold it over. And that's 1 potato taco. And then I'm just gonna line them up here, and then we're gonna deep fry them. All right, so this is how many we made. I usually make this many. It's probably close to 20. They all get eaten. They're also really good the next day. So this oil is hot. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start dropping them in the oil, just like so, and then let them fry up, and then I'll show you when they're done. All right, I still have some frying, but I am finished with frying most of them. I only have 3 left, so I'm gonna show you guys how I plate these up. I do about 3 at a time. I take guacamole first, spread the guacamole out. Now this is just how I do it. I spread the guacamole out first. It's honestly the best part. Then I'm gonna do all the guacamole first. Then I go over it with my sour cream, glop it on there. Of course, this is Greek yogurt. I use the Chobani Greek yogurt. Spread, spread, and spread. Okay, just like so. Then I take my queso fresco, take some out. I chop it up like cubes. And then you're gonna crumble it all over. It's such a good cheese. And this is the authentic way. Now, the only thing I don't have is cabbage. They like to chop up cabbage really fine and put it on there traditionally, but I don't. And then I take my Valentina and I just go all over it, kind of just randomly. And that is it. And that is how I make my taco de papas traditionally. They are so delicious. And here is my toddler's plate. He gets a taco, guacamole, some Greek yogurt, banana, and I gave him some of the mashed potatoes that I just saved over with a spoon because he loves mashed potatoes. But that is dinner for me and my toddler. Look how good these look. Oh, my favorite.
So tonight for dinner, I'm making hamburgers on the grill. Patrick's going to grill them after I make them up, and it's going to be so delicious. So first, I'm just seasoning my ground beef. I'm going to do some onion powder and mix that in. And then I'm going to do some garlic powder and also some pepper. Then I'm going to start patting out my patties. I usually get anywhere between 4 to 5 burgers out of a pound of ground beef. This is ground beef. I don't usually use my deer for burgers. I have, and it tastes great, but I had some beef, so that's what we're using today. Now that all my burgers are patted out, I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper to the top. I like them a little peppery, and then we're going to take these out to the grill. While the grill heats up, I'm going to go on and get my tater tots in the oven and get them started cooking because burgers do cook pretty quickly. These are just some Sonic tots. They rate really good on Yucca, so that's why I choose this brand. Really no other reason. And we're going to just spread those out, and then I'm going to get those in the oven. Next, I'm laying out my veggies and toppings for my burgers. I like a lot of toppings, so we're definitely going to do pickles and lettuce and tomato and a red onion, and I even have some pepperoni on the side. It's going to be so good. I'm only going to cut a little bit of tomato and onion because my husband doesn't like a lot on his burgers. He's kind of like a mayonnaise, cheese, and onion person only, so I'm just going to cut a little bit. Here is the lineup so far. You can see I've got all my toppings, my condiments, and all of my veggies. Next thing we're going to do is I am going to do green beans on the side tonight for us. These are some homegrown canned green beans that I canned up last year. So I'm just going to get those warming on the stove. Next, we are going to grill those burgers. They grill pretty quickly, so I wanted to have everything else done and prepped first. The tater tots should be about done at this point, and we're just going to get those on here, grill them up, and then we will assemble our burgers for baby and us. All right, I'm making my toddler's plate. I got him a few tater tots, and then I'm going to just break up a burger patty. He doesn't like, obviously, whole burgers. He's only 1.5. So basically, I'm just going to kind of give him an unassembled burger, a deconstructed burger, if you will, with some patty, some cheese, some condiments, and some tater tots. Some ketchup and some green beans as well. Now for my husband's plate. He likes some Kewpie mayo. It's delicious. We both really love Kewpie. And then he likes a little bit of lettuce on his burger, so I'm going to do that. And then he will take a patty, some cheese, and some onion, and that is honestly about it for him. I'm going to add some homegrown green beans on the side. They're hot and steaming, as well as some tater tots, and that is completely it for my husband's plate. I don't normally film making my plate, but this is a fun one because I like everything on my burger. Anything you can put on a burger, give it to me. I like my Kewpie. I like my ketchup. I also put ketchup and mustard on the side to dip my tater tots in. I want my lettuce on there, then my burger, then I'm going to always do a slice of cheese, and then I want my tomatoes. I absolutely love tomatoes, my onion. I want a big juicy pickle. I'm going to do a pepperoni on the side, but that's pretty much it for what I want on my burger. Then, of course, I'm going to do some homegrown green beans as well as some tater tots on my plate for dipping. And that is it for our dinner for tonight. So tonight I am making dinner for my family, something quick and easy. Here I have a simple hamburger helper. I ground up my deer meat. We use deer or venison because we harvest it on our property. And once I brown that up, I'm just making it into an easy hamburger helper. I'm pregnant and this is what I'm craving. This isn't something we normally make, but it is what I'm craving right now. I'm also going to boil/steam some broccoli until it's fork tender so that my toddler can eat it really easily. We always do a green with dinner, either peas, broccoli, or green beans typically are our go-tos. Also, I'm going to wash some blueberries. I got these blueberries today and they are huge. They look so good and he absolutely loves blueberries. So I'm just going to break those up for him so that he doesn't choke. And then I'm just going to give him some broccoli. I do have to cut this up so that he can eat it a little bit easier, which these are super, super tender and soft. He usually doesn't have an issue, but I like to cut them anyway. And then I'm going to serve him up some hamburger helper. He's never had this before. Like I said, he's almost 2, but we've never made this before. And I was so shocked at how much he loved it. He did end up eating almost all of it. And of course, he finished the blueberries and the broccoli. And then I'm also making my husband's plate, so it's going to be a lot more food, obviously. And then I'm just chopping up that broccoli for my toddler so that he can eat it a little bit easier, even though you can see it's super, super soft. And that is it. That is dinner. All right, today we are making country fried steak and gravy, which I have never made before, so we will see how this goes. I bought some cube steak from the store, which I've never bought before, and we are going to give it a go. So the first thing that I did is I dredged my cube steak in flour with seasoning and then an egg and milk mixture, and then back into the flour mixture to get it good and breaded for getting a good crust on the outside in the skillet. And I have some peanut oil, like a little thin layer, in the skillet that's hot. And then you can see I'm just gonna fry them up there. Obviously cleaning as we go. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just let these crisp up really good on both sides. Going to flip them over. I'm not going to cook them till the point of being overdone because they're going to bake in the oven for almost 2 hours. But I did want to get a really good crisp on them. And then I'm going to put them all into this glass baking dish so that we can move on to making the gravy, which is the next step for these country fried steaks. Then I'm going to drain the grease. I did this off camera because it was super scary. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the oil back in that I had drained out. And then we're going to add in the flour so that we can kind of get the gravy started. So I'm actually not a stranger to making homemade gravy. My father-in-law actually taught me how to make it a while ago. So I've been making a lot of gravy. So it's not foreign to me. So basically you just add a little bit of flour to whatever fat medium you have, whether it's butter or a grease that you fried a steak in. In my case, that's what we did today. It's going to be chunky and thick until you add like a liquid, which you can see here I'm adding milk. I have seen people add in to thin it out. I've seen people add in like chicken broth and beef broth and stuff, but I chose to do milk and water today. Just keep adding any water and milk that you have to thin this out. Don't add too much flour or you can end up with a lot of gravy and you'll need a lot of extra seasoning, so be careful. The next thing I'm adding is a tablespoon of this Better Than Bouillon beef bouillon into there to make this a really good beefy flavored gravy. And you can see here it's turned a perfect brown. I've been whisking this over and over to get it to the perfect consistency. And now that the gravy's done, I'm just going to ladle it over the country fried steaks because we are going to bake this in the oven and it's going to be so good. Once you're done covering it fully with the gravy, you're just going to put some aluminum foil over it and we are going to pop this in the oven for almost 2 hours. I think I left these in there for an hour and a half at 325 and they turned out perfect. Next, I'm going to prep some potatoes because obviously I want some mashed potatoes with this. I'm not going to show myself chopping all my potatoes, but basically just make some mashed potatoes. You know, dice your potatoes. You can peel them if you want. I never peel my potatoes for mashed potatoes because the skin doesn't bother me. Then I cleaned and seasoned my cast iron skillets once that gravy was done. Again, just more cleanup. Then once your potatoes are fully boiled, just make your mashed potatoes however you like. These were garlic and butter and milk mashed potatoes, so it's basically just a lot of seasoning and milk. Then I'm going to warm up some of my homegrown canned green beans for a side for our dinner. And there is the mashed potatoes, the green beans, and then the country fried steaks just got out of the oven after about an hour and a half. This is what they look like. They were so hot, so steaming hot, and I'm going to plate them up next. So here's my toddler's plate. I'm just giving him some of the mashed potatoes. I do give him some of the country fried steak because I wasn't sure if he was going to like it, but I did give him some, and I actually ended up cutting it up into small pieces, even though it was super soft and tender from being in the oven so long. And then I gave him some green beans and some applesauce. And then my husband's plate, I gave him some of the same exact things except no applesauce. So we just had some mashed potatoes and then I put the steak on top of there with some of the gravy on top as well. And then he also got some green beans. And then I also have a loaf of sourdough bread that I love. And so I did some sourdough bread with butter. And that is dinner for my husband and my toddler.